After the Horseman War was imprisoned, his brother Death will go to whatever lengths he must in order to clear his name. Welcome to Summed Up, the series where I take a game or piece of game media, summarize it, and then give it back to you. In this one, I go over Darksiders 2. Long before war was accused of bringing upon the End War, the Nephilim raged throughout the whole of creation, until 4 of them became tired of the slaughter. These 4 made a deal with the Charred Council. In exchange for unimaginable power, they would serve the council, and so the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were formed. Their first mission? To annihilate the Nephilim and destroy their souls. But that time has passed, and now the horseman Death rides into the Vale to find the Crowfather, keeper of secrets, in search of information on how to resurrect the Third Kingdom, humanity, in order to free war. When Death reaches him and asks him for help, the Crowfather refuses. He then shows Death that if there is a way to resurrect humanity, he'll find it at the Tree of Life, but he closes the portal on him and adds that if he wants passage to the tree, he must take back what he once gave him. Death replies that he agreed to keep the amulet in exchange for its secrets. Crowfather insists that the amulet must be destroyed, but Death states that he can't, and so the Crowfather says that he won't let Death pass as long as he lives. Unable to understand why, if he killed them while they lived, Death refuses to destroy the amulet that houses the souls of the Nephilim. He asks if the horseman is sure of war's innocence and transforms into his brother in order to fight. Death defeats the Crowfather and commands him to open the portal. Crowfather falls, dying, and the amulet falls off his neck. It cracks, breaks, and embeds itself into Death's chest. Death passes out in agony as a portal that emerges from the Crowfather's corpse swallows him. Death awakes to find an old man looming over him. Upon asking where the Tree of Life is, the old man tells him that this world is dying, plagued by chaos and corruption, and once the world dies, so will the tree. He then tells Death to seek out the Forge Sister and ask her about the fire of the mountain. If he helps her, she will help him reach the tree. Death reaches the Forge Sister. Her actual name is Alia. She is a maker, the ones who crafted the Dark Towers of Hell, the cities of heaven, and much more inside of the Maker's Forge. She goes on to explain that the fire of the mountain and the tears once flowed through the forge and allowed them to create all of those things, but corruption has taken them, and now the forge is silent. The way to the tree is blocked by that same corruption. The only way to clear it is using a colossus they created in order to fight. But they need to forge a maker's key in order to activate it, and for that they need the forge in working order. On his way to the cauldron from where the fire comes, Death meets Karn, another maker with a knack for exploration. He warns Death that the cauldron has fallen to corruption, but he can still feel the fire inside. Death manages to make his way inside and reignite the cauldron. Back with Alia, she congratulates him for a job well done, then adds that he must now restore the tears of the mountain in order to restore the forge. After having restored the tears, Death heads back to the Maker's Forge where Alia and her brother Ballas forge a Maker's Key. Adard hands Death the key and tells him the Guardian, their super weapon, is at the foundry. Before going to the foundry though, Death speaks with Adard. The Elder explains that the tree does not hold power over life and death. It is a gateway to and from all the realms in existence. In each realm exists the tree. It may look different, but it's the same tree in each one and it connects them all. Before crossing the bridge to the foundry, Karn appears and states that the horseman will need his help over there, so he's coming with. They need 3 Heartstones, which hold the essence of a maker's heart, in order to bring the construct to life. The Heartstones were created along with the Guardian, but were never installed. The pair searches for, finds, and installs 2 of the Heartstones. When they get to the 3rd, however, it is corrupted. Death assumes that the other 2 stones will be enough to cleanse the 3rd, and Karn hopes that he is right. Death is no maker, and there's no way he could have known how wrong he was. The corruption takes over the Guardian, and it goes off, rampaging through the land. When Death catches up with the Guardian, he finds Adard facing off with it. Seeing that his attempts are hopeless, the Elder tells Death that the Guardian is beyond his help. The horseman may do what he must. Death destroys the Guardian and then Adard steps in. If the path to the tree is to be clear, they need the Guardian. Then he gives everything he has in order to revive the construct. Adard succeeds, but dies from the strenuous effort. The Guardian checks on the corpse of Adard and lets out a yell of sorrow. Then the angry construct turns around and smashes into the sentient being of corruption, blocking the path to the tree. With the path now clear, Death heads to the Tree of Life. Once he makes it there, Death is pulled into some strange dimension where a being asks what he seeks. Once he replies, the being states that humanity doesn't deserve resurrection. Death says he's only on his quest in order to free war. The being asks why he would free war and resurrect humanity when he could resurrect the Nephilim. Why free one when he could bring them all back? Death recognizes the being, Absalom, one of the Nephilim. He now goes by corruption and uses his dark power to swallow all. Death appears in the land of the dead. The Tree of Life is not a destination, but a portal to other worlds, states a being that greets him. He goes on to say that if the tree brought him here, it's because that is where he needs to be. Once Death explains his quest, the being tells him that he was right to seek the tree, but what he really needs is the Well of Souls. Death asks for directions, and the being tells him that he must find the Lord of Bones, who will either guide him to the well or kill him. Lovely! Death arrives at the Eternal Throne, but is stopped by the Lord of Bones' Chancellor. If the horseman wants an audience with the Lord, the Chancellor explains, he must first go to the Gilded Arena, defeat its champion, and bring back its skull as proof. At the arena, Death summons and defeats its champion. He returns with its skull to the Chancellor. Shocked, but bound by the deal they made, the Chancellor lets Death into the throne room. Inside, the Lord of Bones awakens. Death tells him what he seeks, and the Lord ponders on whether he wishes to resurrect humanity or absolve his sins by resurrecting the Nephilim. Nevertheless, the Lord agrees to show Death the way to the well, but only if he brings back the 3 dead lords that are supposed to serve him but are MIA. Once the Lord of Bones' request is completed, Death returns with the 3 dead lords in tow. The Lord of Bones then kills his dead lords for their dereliction of duty, for having abandoned the throne for so long. As for Death, he has earned the gratitude of the Lord of Bones, and so the Lord says that he'll tell him of one in his kingdom who knows the way to the well. But first, he says, Death must face the demons of the battle that rages within him, of his shame and regret, and then he does something to Death. When the horseman comes to, he is at the entrance of the city of the dead. The Chancellor is there to tell him where he must go, but not who he must seek. Only that who he needs to speak with is within the city. In the city, Death finds the late Crowfather. He explains that in order to reach the well, he must find its key. A key that was divided in 2 long ago. The angels have one half, the demons have the other. Death must go back to the Tree of Life. It will take him where he needs to go. Death travels to Lost Light, an angel outpost where their half of the key to the well is kept. There, he is attacked by a squad of corrupted angels. A non-corrupted angel named Nathaniel swoops in to help Death. After they've killed the corrupted ones, the angel tells Death to speak with the Archon, who is at the top of the crystal spire. Atop the spire, the Archon explains that he had the key, but it lays in the Lost Light Citadel, which is currently consumed by corruption. The Rod of Araphel, a divine relic, could reverse the corruption, but it is on Earth and the Archon doesn't dare go there, for any angel who goes is barred from ever re-entering the White City. Death agrees to retrieve the rod so the Archon can clear a path to the key. On Earth, the horseman sees the monsters humanity has become, and Uriel and her Hellguard fighting the demons that have made them so. During said skirmish, Uriel gets beat around a bit and Death jumps in to help. After thanking him for saving her life, Uriel explains that the rod was on Earth, wielded by an angel named Hestus, but he fell. The rod was broken and the pieces scattered by the destroyer. With the pieces gathered and the rod whole once again, Death returns to the Archon. With it, the Archon clears, not a path, but the entire citadel. Before Death heads there, the angel tells him to seek out the scribe. He'll help him end his quest. In the citadel, Death fights and defeats the corrupted scribe. Pleading for mercy, the scribe explains that the corruption took over all the angels of Lost Light and its source was the Archon. He took the key and fled to the crystal spire after turning the city into a slaughterhouse. And so, feeling used as a pawn, Death returns to the Archon, kills him, and takes the key. 1 down, 1 to go. Now Death heads to Shadow's Edge, where Samael's castle is, to find the demon's key, protected by the great demon himself. In the castle, he finds Lilith, creator of Absalom and sort of mother of the Nephilim. She explains that Samael has gone from the castle, taken the key with him, and fallen. She continues telling Death not to fret and gives him the power to travel back in time before Samael's fall to get the key from him. The only thing she wants in return is for him to follow his heart and resurrect the Nephilim. In the past, Death finds Samael, who refuses to give him the key, so the horseman must take it by force. Once defeated, the demon simply hands over the key. Finally, Death can open the path to the Well of Souls. Once there, Death comes across Absalom, who is at the well corrupting it. They fight and Death, once again, kills his brother. Or what remained of him, that is. The Crowfather appears at the well and tells Death that he must choose, return humanity or resurrect the Nephilim, resurrect one and damn the other. Death chooses to absolve War of his sin. Crowfather explains that in order to resurrect humanity, a sacrifice must be made. Death takes off his mask, hands it to the Crowfather, and walks off the edge into the Well of Souls, sacrificing himself and the souls of all of his brethren stuck in his chest in order to resurrect mankind. Somewhere in hell, Lilith walks towards someone hidden in shadows. The voice asks where his army of Nephilim is. She failed to make Death bring back the Nephilim. Instead, he returned humanity to the balance. With a smile, Lilith says that she is aware and awaits her punishment. The voice states that this time she will not enjoy it, and we hear Lilith scream. Click that like button if you liked the video, subscribe if you really liked it, and share the video. It really helps out the channel. As always, this is Roylox Summed Up, and I'll see you next time.